This is Suit Up Sports.
Suit Up Sports.
Where opinions are as sharp as a tailored suit. No fluff, no gimmicks, just unfiltered, hard-hitting takes on sports and a whole lot more. It's time to suit up. Now here's your host, DJ the Suit Stout.
Welcome to Suit Up Sports. I'm DJ the Suit Stout, along with 10-year NFL vet Frank Garcia. Frank, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, my friend. It's here, and just trying to get through another year of hopefully an exciting football season. And I don't know if we saw what we wanted to see by the Panthers, but it's going to be fun to talk about it and kind of get everything caught up.
Yeah, and we'll dive right in with the Panthers. So game 2 of preseason, taking on the Texans. Texans are going to be a really good football team this year. C.J. Stroud has taken the Texans to the playoffs each of his first 2 years in the NFL. We talked about how Bryce and C.J. are going to be tied together forever because the Panthers chose Bryce over C.J. Stroud. C.J. goes number 2 to the Texans, has definitely had more success as thus far. Also was put on a better team and a better situation for sure. But exciting to see us go up against a team with a very good defense, a very good offense. They added a lot of weapons on offense through the draft, and Panthers come out first drive, 3 and out, just like they did against the Browns in the first game. So second set series, they come out and you think, all right, let's see if we get it going again. And nothing. Bryce was 0 for 2. JT Saunders dropped one right in his hands. That should have been a first down, hit him right in the hands. That would have kept the drive going, but he had a drop. And Canales decides to take the starters out. Originally, he said he was going to play him 3 or 4 drives, plays him 2 drives. And we're going to get into this game a lot, but I want to start with this because last year we talked about how Canales didn't play the starters and how we both agreed that hurt going into the preseason or the regular season. I wasn't sure it would hurt. You were convinced it was going to hurt. I thought maybe it would be okay. Obviously, we start off at New Orleans, Bryce's first throw of the game, an interception, and then it just went downhill from there. So this year, we both agree he has to play him. He does play him, which we both gave him credit for. And then he takes him out after 2 drives instead of playing 3 or 4, especially after 2 bad drives where they had I think a false start. You had a bad drop. And then he takes him out for the rest of the game. And now is announced after the game that they're not going to play at all against Pittsburgh in our final game this Thursday. So 2 things. First of all, I wanted to ask you, number one, did you see anything offensively that stood out to you as to why you think we got off to a bad start, or do you really think it was just the Texans? Because we had played really well against the Texans in the practice on Wednesday, and Bryce looked great. And then number 2, at the end of the game, I was interested to see what Canales would say about why he didn't play him longer and would they play against Pittsburgh. And his answer was actually an answer that I could accept. Didn't agree with it, but when he came out and basically said, look, they didn't deserve to play anymore. And he goes, we can be either almost good or we're going to be good. And they need to choose. So it was as feisty as I've seen him, which I guess is kind of what I liked. I liked the fact that he did kind of call him out and say, you know what? You didn't deserve to play. You look like crap. You didn't deserve to play. On the other hand, we've seen this movie before. Last year, they didn't get enough reps and they stunk. And listen, we played Jacksonville at Jacksonville game 1. We talked about the heat, but Jacksonville looked pretty good. I watched their preseason game yesterday and Trevor Lawrence didn't play and a lot of their starters didn't play. But they look pretty good. They're already talking a lot of smack. I'm reading online. So to me, going back and practicing and like we've done the last 4 weeks and getting reps opposed to putting them in there against Pittsburgh, whether Pittsburgh plays any of their starters or not, I want a good taste in my mouth going into the regular season. I want the offense to have and defense to have some confidence going into that first game, as opposed to that being the last taste in their mouth of two series and nothing.
Well, I thought it was a terrible answer. I thought it was placating us as fans. I thought that he was just trying to give us something, because you're basically saying you didn't deserve to play. Is the equivalent of me saying you didn't deserve to do your chores, right? I mean, this is work. Mm-hmm. This is something I enjoy as a player. I enjoy doing, and these guys enjoy doing. But you're not taking anything away from me by not allowing me to play. Mm-hmm. You're giving me what I want. you're playing into, okay, well, I don't have to work hard anyways if I'm going to get sitting.
Well, I think the players wanted to play more. I mean, I don't think it was a thing of want. I think the players wanted to play
not in
more.
The preseason. Not in the preseason. I'm telling you, they don't want to play in the preseason.
You don't think that the first team,
starters.
even after 2 bad series, you don't think they want to go out with a better taste in their mouth?
They're content.
They don't want to get hurt.
They don't want to get hurt. This is the preseason. It's like, this is old school to me. It's like riding a bike. I don't need to go out there and practice riding the bike. I know how to ride a bike. That's the way players think in preseason, right? So, for them going out there, they don't want to get hurt. Football hurts. Football hurts when you hit somebody. It hurts.
No doubt.
And if I can take some of those reps, especially after a tough physical week of practice, with a lot of fights and a lot of grinding, a lot of heat, a lot of humidity, if I can take a week off or a day off, that's something that you're giving into what I want as a player. So it was a terrible answer.
So you're saying almost like when we coach, right? And we coach baseball together for years. If a kid or if our defense we're practicing and they're throwing the ball around, they've made a couple errors, they're not covering the base they're supposed to cover, we don't just say, okay, we're done. We make them do the drill 100 more times until they get it right.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we don't quit the practice.
Yeah.
Right. We don't say, okay, now benching somebody is a different story.
Right.
Right. Now you have the ability to do that, but he's not going to bench his starter. He's not going to bench Bryce Young.
No.
So, him saying that they're not going to play and they didn't deserve to play. What I heard him say, and the reason why he didn't play them longer, is because of practice and how well they did in practice.
Yeah, he did say that as well. Yeah.
And that's, to me, more of the reason why he said that, well, we got great work in practice and didn't feel like they needed to get out there and get any more reps. We got what we wanted done during the week, right? And that's what we wanted to see. Again, I still don't agree with that philosophy, right? Because practice, a lot of people may not know is scheduled. It's scripted. You know what I'm doing. I know what you're doing. There's a tempo to it. If we go one-on-one against the Texans, we're doing a one-on-one drill. Okay, that's great. I'll take you one-on-one all day. I should win those battles, but there's no physicality to that. I don't have to block you. I don't have to do all the little things that it takes to play in a game. My problem is with this and the lack of preparation they've had in years past is that it just seems like it's more of the same. I think 1 week against the Browns, we think, okay, maybe he's understanding, maybe he's growing, maybe he's learning. But as soon as he has the opportunity to pull back and sit these guys, they're not getting better in practice, right? They get a little bit better, but it's not the same speed. It's not the same tempo. It's not the same, the way you work things, all the little things that it takes to play a game, to, be on the sidelines, to communicate on the field. You don't have coaches in the huddle coaching and telling you, correcting you and those types of things. And, what to expect. There's no in between breaks and timeouts. As a athlete, right? Imagine being a boxer and just sparring and jabbing and preparing for the fight, right? And then going out and, not having to fight anybody. The sparring where everybody's wearing jabs, those guys are set up to be your practice dummies as a boxer, right? But eventually when I go fight a heavyweight championship, if I haven't had those rounds in where I've been hit in the body or in the head, or I've taken those blows, the first time that it's going to happen, it's going to shock me. It's going to stun me.
Yeah.
The same thing applies in football, right? The only way you're going to prepare yourself is by taking the body blows. You can work all the stuff you want during the practice and the preseason and trying to prepare for a long season. And my body's in shape to be able to handle those things, but I still have to take the shots in order to toughen my skin, to callous my body, to get ready to go out there and do those things. And the only way you're going to do that is in games.
Yeah.
So that's the problem I have, and why I've always said that you need some sort of preparation in full speed in a game time situation where the coach is not in the huddle, plays are not scripted, where the defense is going to do things that you don't know and you have to react, right? In practice, especially up front on the line, I know that they're going to run a stunt or a blitz. So I've already seen it 3 times before we even go out and practice because they've scripted it. Our coaches are going to go out there and they want to look good too.
Mhm.
And they want us to see those things, and they want to see if we can remember and regurgitate those things, because when we do the film work, that's what we're expecting to be. So there's no studying done. There's none of those things done. There's no preparation of, these are the blitzes, these are the stunts they're going to do. And coaches can call blitzes and stunts all they want if they've worked on something before and go out there and show you, and it's the first time you've seen it, and you have to adjust. So you have to do those things on the fly. And if you're not ready, if you're not prepared, if you're not seasoned, if you're not a team that has a lot of continuity because you're so young, you're going to struggle.
Well, let me ask you this, because a lot of teams, I went and looked at box scores and of all the games, and a lot of teams did the same thing. They either didn't play their starters or they put them in for 1 or 2 reps. Even young teams and even teams with new coaches, for instance, Jacksonville, who will play week 1, they have a new coach, offensive-minded guru, supposedly like our coach. Trevor Lawrence didn't play this game, and I realized that he's a bit more of a veteran, but still a guy that needs to prove himself. I mean, his numbers and Bryce's numbers are very similar at this time. Do you think that also they're part of it is, and also Canales, who calls the plays during the regular season, has not been calling the plays in preseason. Do you think part of it is also not wanting to show anything? Like, I got to believe that's got to, I'm sure that is part of it.
What are you going to show?
Well, I'm saying you don't want to show what your offense is really going to look like.
So don't run those plays during the game. You can still, football is not about, these dynamic plays that coaches draw up on boards and we go out there and we surprise you and sneak you.
Mm-hmm.
You might have 2 or 3 of those a game, right? Mm-hmm. Football is about doing what you do well better than what the other team does well. And for a player, I know that we're going to run the ball there. Guess what? The defense pretty much knows we're going to run the ball there because they've done their homework. They've studied the film. They know when we're in a certain set that this is the plays that we run. And there's about a handful of plays. You see linebackers diagnosing and calling plays before they're even before you run them, because they've done the homework too. Luke Kuechly, Sam Mills, Urlacher, Ray Lewis, all of those guys were masters at studying these things, so they knew exactly what set you're in, and these are the plays that you run out of those sets.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to execute as an offense. And it's not about me tricking you into doing something. I might be able to have different formations and show you something from a different look that repeats the same play, but football is about a handful of plays, right? And me doing my job and executing more consistently is what makes me a pro, right? That versus a college team. Sometimes in college, I might fall down, I might slip, I might miss a block. What makes you a pro is you're able to do those over and over and over again and have success. Me being able to block you, I have to use a certain technique. If we're going to double team you, we have to use a certain technique. There's no secrets to those things.
Mm-hmm.
So you still have to get those things in full speed, because I tell you this, just like the red zone, right? You hear this all the time. All right, things happen faster in the red zone. Right? Why? Because you don't have as much field to defend, and everything's a much tighter box. So balls have to be out quicker. Receivers have to get their heads around sooner, things like that. Ball's going to be on them if you want to have success, especially with the passing game. Teams that have success in the red zone, they do what? They run the football.
Run the ball.
They run the football. They execute things that they do well, and they have a physicality to them. The same thing applies versus practice, versus preseason, versus the regular season. It just ups it a notch.
Yeah.
So if I've taught you, and this I'm struggling with this right now, even at my level with high school, I teach these guys all the technique in practice, right? And we take our proper footwork and we do all the things that we're supposed to do. When we're drilling it, it looks great. As soon as I'm out of the huddle, and as soon as I'm on the sideline, as soon as they're live speed, guess what happens? They forget about those things sometimes. So my job as a coach is to ingrain those things into them so that they remember it and it's become second nature, right? So that when the game happens, they're using the same techniques that we just practiced over and over and over again to go out there and play with.
Well, then wouldn't that lead to what Canales is saying about practice and about how, it wasn't going to do them any good to put them back out there during the game when they're not doing it right in the first place? So we need to get back to the practice field and practice and ingrain this stuff in their heads so that it is second nature.
Okay, well then, we might as well just go ahead and give up on the season then, right? Because there's going to be times when you struggle as well, right? And I want to know who the pros are.
Well, you bring up a good point there, because I don't know if you saw the Giants-Jets game, but Brian Daboll, who everybody in the league respects as the head coach, obviously he'll be on the hot seat this year because they haven't performed. But Jackson Dart, their rookie quarterback, who's looked great. First or second series of the game, I forget. Russell Wilson was in, most of the first team offense was in, and Daboll looks over to Dart and goes, "Get in right away." Throws him into the game. Did not tell anybody he was doing it. Didn't tell Russell Wilson. Didn't tell Dart. Didn't tell any of the coaches. And after the game, he said, "I want to
change."
Yeah, he goes, "I want Dart to learn that he's got to be ready at all times." And so by throwing him in there in the heat when he had no clue he was going in there is going to get him ready. So when the season happens, if Russell goes down with an injury or if we decide to run a different play, he's ready to go. And so that I do understand what you're saying. And
it's the mind wars that coaches use to help prepare their team so that when the real bullets start flying, they're prepared. They're prepared for any situation. If you get a sack, right, that's a sudden, oh, damn, now it's something that we have to adjust to and adapt with, right? A defense, if you're out there and they get a turnover and you're on the sideline, you just got off there and they get a turnover, I have to go out there and execute immediately, right away. And I have to be ready to do that at all times. I mean, these are the things that you don't prepare for in practice, right? All the other things, all the ancillary things that we don't think about, the crowd noise, right? People yelling at you as a player and distracting you on the sideline. Fans are sitting there and talking shit to you.
I've been known to do that.
Right. And players sometimes get engaged with that, or they at least hear it. And it's the noise that happens, during the game that you have to be able to look past and focus on what your job is. Because, I think we all can agree that, sometimes even if I was focused, there's going to be something somebody says it's going to, set you off.
Yeah.
And you're going to want to fight, and you're going to want to do this, or you're going to do that. Or let's say the cheerleaders on the sideline are distracted because one of them's hot and you think that she's pretty and you're over there staring at her versus watching and focusing on the game. Or there's a fight that breaks out in the stands and, oh, wow, look at that. You want to see those things, but you still have to be ready to go out there and do it. I mean, you have to be loose as a player, but you also have to be ready when the whistle blows to go 110 miles an hour to go out there and perform your job, or somebody's going to get hurt. You're going to get hurt, or you're going to have you're going to fail as a team, especially on the offensive side.
Well, let's start. Let's go to a few good things that we saw. And there was
we got about 2 minutes. We got about 20 seconds to cover those.
There wasn't many. And the first thing I want to talk about is Bryson Tremaine. So Bryson Tremaine is a kid, played at Stanford. He was with the Redskins practice squad last year. Big receiver, good speed. One of the guys you hear that Canales and the guys I've talked about throughout training camp is just every day he's making plays. He had 3 more catches for 46 yards. Jimmy Horn Jr., 1 catch for 1 yard. The receiver room, I think everybody will agree, is probably the deepest receiver room we've had in a long time. We know we've got McMillan, we've got Leggett, we've got Thielen. And then after that, we've got depth, but it's going to be a dogfight to make this team. You've got David Moore. You have Hunter Renfrow. You have Jimmy Horn Jr. You have Bryson Tremaine. So they've got a receiver room that is as deep as they've had. Will they keep 7 receivers? I don't know. But Bryson Tremaine is making a push to make this team, and you got to believe that those last few spots are coming down to Hunter Renfrow, Jimmy Horn Jr., David Moore, and Bryson Tremaine is.
Well, let me maybe help if we want to form a roster, right? How coaches go about doing that when it comes to decisions like this.
Yep.
How much can he do? What else can he do? Can he just receive? Can he just catch? Because if he can't help out on special teams, if he can't block, if he can't tackle, if he can't run down, then he's not valuable to us as a team, because he's not going to beat these other guys out. He's going to be, we like him because he makes us better. He makes us better in practice. He gives us a great look against, defenses. He'll give a great look against what, you're going to see on another Sunday, because he's going to try hard in practice. He's going to do all those things, but how valuable to us is he?
Right.
And can he, what else can he do? Because that's the way you're going to determine whether he makes the team or not. Because if you take 7 receivers, for example, that means you're taking away from a linebacker that could help you on special teams. that could help you.
Which special teams looked better yesterday, but it's definitely not been a strong.
But you understand, I mean, those are things that or else you start having to put starters out there. And Canales doesn't even want to play his starters. He's definitely not going to put them on special teams.
Yeah.
So now you have to use these guys, and how valuable to you is he with those things? So that's the way you're going to start formulating this roster. And I don't know the answer. I have not seen the special teams. I'm not seeing his role.
Out of the guys we just talked about, Bryson would be the one guy that I would say isn't a big special teams guy. Jimmy Horn Jr., we do know
he's going to be a returner.
He can return, even though
Hunter Renfro can catch punts.
He can catch punts,
and he's going to do all the little things that it takes necessary to make a team. He's going to make you better on Sundays.
David Moore, return punt some last year. He can do that too.
I like David Moore,
and Canales loves him.
I love David,
and the kid makes plays. So
David Moore was one of the guys to me, and I watched the entire game, that competed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He went out there ready to play. Right. And as a coach, when I'm watching these films versus a player, or a teammate, I say, this guy shows up.
Mm-hmm.
He's ready to play. Nobody else was, but he was.
Well, I'll tell you another kid that showed up. Again, I want to talk about some of the positives is ETN, 100%.
Yep.
He looked good. He had that one long run called back. Again, he looked better returning punts. He still looks a little shaky to me catching the ball sometimes, but you definitely see why they liked him and why they did draft him where they did in the 4th round.
It's completely. And let me say this too, just so people say, well, he caught punts at Clemson. He caught punts in college. It's a big difference catching punts from the NFL punters versus college players.
Yeah.
Right.
More hang time, the speed coming at you.
The way the ball comes at you, it's going to be time. It's going to be X.
Yep.
Right. It's going to be 1X, 2X, 3, whatever that X is. Right. Now you're catching a 50-yard punt that's going 50 yards in the air versus a punt in college, which is a line drive, easy catch. Everybody catches that all day and take off and run.
Yeah.
Right. So those are the differences, and why maybe, he's just not used to, the speed of, everything that happens faster in the NFL.
Yeah. No, and I was glad to see him look good. And then Dowdle, the 1,000-yard rusher from the Cowboys, from the former Gamecock who we signed. I think you also saw in these first 2 preseason games the help that he's going to add in the passing game. Really good receiver. He had a 15-yard catch in that game in limited time. We know Chuba has worked so hard on becoming a better receiver. After every practice he's out there working on, and has become a much better receiver. But I think you see that Dowdle is going to really help in that. And then have Etienne. I still feel good that this offense is going to be okay. I just worry that it's a slow starting offense. It was year 1 with Canales and Bryce. It was year 2 with Canales and Bryce. And so I just hope that they can get over the hump this year in Jacksonville in a very hot environment. Crowd's gonna be so fired up for not only the first game. Travis Hunter, everyone is so pumped about Travis Hunter, going to play both sides of the ball. He didn't play yesterday either with an injury, but they say he'll be okay. But I still think offensively we should be okay. I would also say that Let
me ask you a question, because I'm not even sure. And I know a lot of times, I follow the NFL, I follow the teams, I follow a lot of things that go on, but I'm looking through the depth chart, and maybe I missed it. Maybe he got hurt. What happened to Adam Thielen?
He's fine. He's just not playing much.
So I don't even see him on the depth chart anywhere.
He was the depth chart I saw last week. The last one that they put out, he was on the depth chart. He was starting.
Oh, there he is, right there. Yeah, Adam Thielen. Yeah, he was a starter right
now,
there.
I'll tell you what. This is one of the things I was going to talk about with the receivers, is that because we do have a very deep receiver room, there has been many rumors out there that the Panthers might look to trade one of these guys to fix another position. So let's say middle linebacker, right? Or let's say depth at DB. Well, regardless of what it is. Now, Minnesota Vikings, where Thielen played his whole career, it has been a team that have talked about needing a receiver. Addison, one of their really good receivers, is suspended for the first 4 games. If you're the Panthers, and Dan Morgan showed last year that he's not scared to make a trade in preseason to help the team. Michael Jackson, the DB we got from Seattle last year, the last week of preseason, who turned out to be a great player, or a very good player, and is playing, will be starting this year with a new contract. it wouldn't surprise me to see the Panthers trade one of these guys. Now, I don't think it would be, Tremaine or Jimmy Horn Jr., but I could see it be a David Moore or Adam Thielen or Hunter Renfrow. Now, you're not that you're going to get a ton for them, but if you can get a middle linebacker that you feel is better than what you have, if you could get a DB that you feel is going to be your third DB that's better than because now they're still.
So let me ask you this question right here, because we just talked about two guys that are similar, not just because they're white, but because that's a similarity they have, but they play
good
and
route runners,
they offer a similar skill set.
Yep.
Right, to the Panthers.
Yep.
And both of them are going to be that slot possession receiver, run good routes,
yep,
good hands, and work hard and show up every day. They're pros, right?
Yep.
Who are you going to take? Are you going to take Thielen?
You talking about who would I keep if the Panthers, or who would I trade?
Who would you trade? Right, because that's the guy. The other guy is the one you want to keep, right?
Oh, of course.
So I look at a guy like Renfrow, and I know he may not have the presence in the locker room yet, because he hasn't done it as long and things of that nature, but he's very similar to Thielen.
Mm-hmm.
And he's 5 years younger, right?
And he's a lot cheaper.
Mm-hmm. So, if you're asking me, if you're looking at this roster, I know Thielen is penciled in right now, and he's a good player for us. He was a good player for us last year, but sometimes you got to take the pacifier out of the quarterback's mouth and grow other players.
Well, and Renfrow, like you said, may not be the downfield, not that either one of them are speed burners, but Renfrow may not be known as more of the downfield guy that Thielen has had success with.
Maybe he's had the opportunity.
Maybe, but my point,
I guarantee he's faster.
Yeah, he's faster. And the other thing is he would definitely be a safety blanket, just like Thielen. So if you could trade Thielen to the Vikings, for instance, I'm using them as just one team because that's one team that's been mentioned in rumors. And if they had a middle linebacker that you could bring in that you feel could step in and play right away, or even if maybe it's for a draft choice, I could see them doing that.
Well, think about this, right? And people may have forgotten, but Hunter Renfrow, even when he was at Clemson, was a guy that stood out to me. And again, I mean, obviously, when you look at the play, the position, he's the one white guy out there that's making plays. No, but why? Right? Because he's always in the right place at the right time.
Great route runner and catches everything.
He has a walk-on mentality,
mm-hmm,
right? And what I mean by that is that he's trying to prove something every single time.
Well, he was a walk-on at Clemson,
and he worked himself into being a scholarship player. But who did Dabo go to? In every big game, the national championship game, who caught the touchdown pass?
Yeah, Renfrow was the guy.
Right? Over the top and in the side, right?
Yep.
He was the guy that made the unbelievable catch, when it counted. I want guys like that. I want guys that step up when the moment is the biggest.
And you're not saying that Thielen isn't that. You're just saying if they have to,
He's 5 years young
in this wide receiver room, if you have to make a tough decision, that. And if you could get something of value for Thielen,
Thielen is the guy I'm
and honestly, trading. Thielen would have more value in a trade than Renfrow would.
Yep.
Renfrow sat out last year. Now Renfrow was a Pro Bowler a couple years before that, but I think we're on the same page on that. And I think that if they did trade Thielen, not only would Renfrow be able to step in there, but I think David Moore, like we mentioned, would be able to step in. So the receiver room is going to be interesting. Jimmy Horn Jr.
When you have depth like that, you have the luxury in a commodity of making those decisions, knowing that at the time it's the right decision because of all the things that we've just evaluated here. Our coaches are doing the same thing. This guy's younger. He steps up in big plays. He shows up every down. Thielen's, I love him, but he's 100 years old.
Yeah, right? And he got hurt.
We're thinking about maybe him retiring, right? He came out of retirement or, going to retirement. He wouldn't know if this is going to be his last year or not, but he's at the end of his contract, makes more money. And we have a New England type player that came out of nowhere, and that's basically Renfrow, that we're not paying anything to, that can show up every single down and show out.
It definitely gives Dan the luxury of at least looking into that, and I'm sure he is. By the way, something else that he's looking at. Rumors came out last night. Trey Hendrickson, the great defensive end from Cincinnati, led the league in sacks. He's had double-digit sacks every year of his career. High motor guy, gets to the quarterback, and he still can't get a contract done with Cincinnati. So he's holding in, whatever the heck they call it these days. But Cincinnati finally, I guess, has come out and admitted that they are now willing to look at trades. The three teams that were mentioned when it comes to trading for him were the Browns, the Colts, and the Panthers. Well, they're not going to trade him to the Browns. They're not going to trade him in state, across the street. I don't see that happening. So then you go to the Colts and the Panthers, and I'm sure there's other teams too now that are inquiring about him now that they know that they're willing to move him. As I said earlier, the Eagles will probably get him. They seem to get everybody. But if you're the Panthers and you know that one of the weak spots on your team right now is getting to the quarterback at the defensive end position. Now, we did draft two young guys. Nick Scorton played great the first game, had a collapsed lung this last game. So, we don't even know if he'll be ready.
It was heat exhaustion.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of concern about that. It looked like heat exhaustion. He continued to get worse. They took him to the hospital. They did the studies. His lung collapsed. That being said, that injury that you have is anywhere from like a 3-day to a 30-day process, right?
They say
depending on how much steroids they pump into him, how fast it comes back.
Yeah.
And
they say the lung itself normally reflates itself within 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just a matter of when he can feel comfortable again or whatever. So, I think him being ready for opening day is certainly questionable at this point in time. But regardless, even when he's healthy, and he did great the first game, and Princely Uman, and I never can say his last name, Uman Milan, that's what I'm going to call him until I get it right. The rookie out of Mississippi who has also shown flashes and actually showed flashes in this game. You've got those two young guys. You've got Wanham. You've got, the Pat Jones, whoever. But they still know that that's going to be an area of need for sure. It was last year, and it's going to be this year. If you're the Panthers and you've already talked to the Bengals about Trey Henderson, and what the rumors are is that the Bengals want draft capital and they want a starting player. So let's say now Trey Henderson's 31, so they're not going to get a first-round pick for him. I don't think they're going to even get a second-round pick. I think they're probably going to get a third-round pick this year and maybe a fifth-round pick the year after that or something like that, I think. So that doesn't bother me from a draft capital standpoint. But then you got to figure out, okay, who can we give them that would start on their team? And you got to go to the defensive side of the ball.
Why?
Because they want defensive players is what they're saying. So, okay, do you give them one of your two rookie defensive ends? I doubt it. Do you give them DJ Wanham, who played well when he did, he missed the first 7 games last year, played well. Do you give him somebody like that? Do you give him one of our safeties, which, Morig, who we just signed to a big deal? I can't imagine they do that. They're not giving J.C. Horn. They're not giving Derek Brown. Do you give in Alshon Robinson? The question I guess I'm asking is, this team is not one player away. We all know that. They are 6-7 players away, minimum. So knowing that is a huge position in need, knowing that you also, when you trade for him, would obviously sign him to an extension right away. I would guess they'd give him a 3-year extension right away, so you don't have to go through this contract stuff. He gets the deal that he's wanting. He's not going to go anywhere and not have a new deal. That's the purpose of him doing this. But if you could get him for a third round this year, a fifth round the year after, and you give up an Alshon Robinson or defensive tackle, because we do seem to have better depth at D tackle now. When we brought in Wharton, we brought in Bobby Brown. Do you do something like that? I say if that's the kind of deal you can get to get that deal done, you do it in a heartbeat. Now, if you tell me that I got to give up our safety Morig, I go, I don't think so. And I don't think the Panthers would either. If you tell me we have to give up, maybe Cade Mades, our backup center, and plays well there, and he also plays backup guard and plays well there. I don't know. That makes it a little more difficult. I've talked to other people about this who tell me I'm nuts. You do it in a heartbeat. I don't think they'd want to give up one of those two young defensive ends either, only because, number one, they like them, and number two, the costs that you have on them are so cheap. And if you're going to have to give this dude $31 million a year, which is about what he's probably going to get, which also would bring in, if you traded Adam Thielen, saves some money to go towards that, I guess, this year. But I think the Panthers should be aggressive here and do it. I don't do first-round pick. I don't go nuts with it. And I think Dan is going to obviously be very smart on what he offers. He's not going to overpay.
And it's really, it comes down to really, when negotiations like this are taking place, it's not what, we want to give. It's what they're willing to accept.
Sure,
right?
Of course.
So, they have all the cards if we want this player, because they have his contract, right? My question to you, and this is what I've always struggled with as somebody that's looking at, maybe putting myself in a general manager situation or a front office position, do you want a guy that is willing to sit out when his contract isn't met because he wants more money? How hard is that guy going to play for you? Or the next time his contract's up here, right, is he going to sit out and hold out and, hold this over your head? Personally, I like guys that are traditionally doing it the right way.
Which he has been.
I don't like guys that are going to force teams' hands into contract decisions, because that to me, they're risky. They're risky propositions. Even though that's a good player, I don't know if I take that chance, because I don't want that type of player that's willing to be selfish, and that's the way that they're going to look at it.
Yeah, but let me say this. But first of all, this guy, everybody that you ask, any analyst, you name all of them, will tell you
he's not a good player.
No, they say he's a great player with a great motor, and he plays for the Bengals, who are notorious for not paying their guys. Now, they finally did pay guys. They paid Jamar Chase, they paid T. Higgins, they paid Joe Burrow, but they have limited funds. When you pay those three dudes the money they paid them, they have limited funds. So I don't think this is Trey Hendrickson being selfish at all. I think this Trey Hendrickson going to do. I led the league in sacks. Every year I'm in the top 3 or 4 in sacks. So I don't miss games. He doesn't miss games, which is another big deal. Let me
ask you this question.
I don't think you can put him in a, because I agree with what you say.
Are they going to take money away from him when he doesn't play well?
No, but that has nothing to do with it. They don't. No. That
does have a lot to do with it,
because they don't do that with any player.
I know they don't. So my point to that is
he's trying to get
players want what they want when they play well, but they don't want that to take away when they don't.
But all he's done is play well, and all he wants to do is be paid like the other top 3 or 4 pass rushers in the league. We saw the big deal Max Crosby got.
Everybody's going to want that.
But my point is, he deserves it, and so he's going into a contract year, and he's not getting paid what he should. I don't blame him at all for doing it. There's certain people that I don't blame Micah Parsons for sitting out in Dallas. The dude deserves more money. Everyone is amazed that Jerry is giving their tight end, Jake Ferguson, a contract, and these other guys contracts, made Dak Prescott one of the highest paid quarterbacks, and not paying this dude who's been the heart of your defense and is still in his prime. He's only going on his 2nd contract. Trey Hendrickson, this will be his last big contract.
When I pay one, I have to pay them all, because every player is going to want those contracts.
Of course they are.
When their contract is up.
But not every player leads the league in sacks, and not every player doesn't miss games. The dude doesn't miss games. I would agree with you if we were talking about certain players like an Odell Beckham, guys who miss games all the time, and guys who you can't. If we want to go to the NBA, we talk about LaMelo Ball gets paid and then he plays half the time. I agree 100%. If a guy like that sits out, sit out. But when you got a guy like this who never misses games, who's always in the top of the league in sacks, who has a high motor, high integrity, everyone, great in the locker room. He's a leader in the locker room. The dude, I don't blame him for sitting out. And he's on a team in the Bengals who should have paid him last year, and he still played. And they said they were going to try to pay him last year, and then he says they didn't even contact him until 2 months ago or something. So I don't blame him at all for sitting out. And if you're the Panthers, I don't worry one bit about what kind of guy you're getting in him. I just worry about what I have to get up to get him.
And let me also say this. This sounds to me, if all those things are true in what you're saying, right? This sounds to me like a sales pitch, not from the Bengals, not from Hendrickson, but from his agent. Because his agent, a lot of times, will go out there, and as an agent, you're going to start floating things out there.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Why? To hold the team that you have captive.
And it's the Bengals, who are probably the most notorious team in the NFL when it comes to doing this.
Absolutely. No, I can give you a prime example of I think it was not Boomer Esiason, but it was a quarterback that was one play away from making $1 million, and it was during the last game of the season. Played his ass off. I think he threw for like 500 yards in a game against the Cardinals, and they pulled him out because he was going to hit a bonus.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
The Bengals.
The Bengals. And even though they did come out of their pocket this year and paid Chase, Higgins, and Burrow, and by the way, the reason they signed, Chase, obviously, he's the best receiver arguably in football. The reason they
just came off of the
crazy year.
Well, he was the All-Pro.
Right. And then
he had more yards than anybody.
And then T. Higgins, he's hurt a lot too, but Burrow basically went to the front office and said, we're keeping him, and they kept him. So I get the Bengals also going, we can't pay everybody, because you can't. And that's why it's so important to have young rookies on your team that you get for 4 years. Well, that's why I think
when you pay your quarterback, he has to make other players better.
Exactly. So that's why I'm saying that
Bengals want him too.
No doubt, but they don't want to pay him. So if
no, I don't think it's not they don't want to pay him.
If they can't pay him what they want,
they can pay him
by
next
the way,
year.
You got to remember too. Well, why would he play this year without getting a new contract? He would be better just taking it easy. He's going to get paid next year no matter what. So if the Bengals,
he has a contract.
Correct, but in this day and age, we know that when players get to the last year, this is what happens. We've got 4 guys doing it right now, including Crazy Terry, Scary Terry in Washington, and Micah Parsons. And so my point is, the commodity is worth it. It's just a matter of what the Panthers are willing to give, and like you said, what the Bengals are willing to receive. The Bengals may be going, you know what? I don't care if he sits out all year. Let him. He won't get paid, and let him. We'll find the crap out of him, and let
him. He's under contract.
But at the other side of that, you've got
on his rights.
You've got a team who has a great offense, and their defense was awful last year. So now, if you're trying to improve that, and you're going to take the best guy, not just on your team on defense, but one of the top 3 in the league, you got to figure something out.
Be better than anything you have. I mean, none of these guys you're talking about, however, are going to be better than anybody that they already have on their roster.
You mean it's somebody that the Panthers will trade? Well, not true. Depends on who we're going to give up. Our defensive line now, with the depth that we have,
they're not going to sign a guy to give a guy up.
No, but if they're going to trade him to get draft capital and a player, right? If we're going to give him a 3rd and a 5th, and again, I'm just assuming that's what it would be. I'm not sure. I know it wouldn't be a 1st-round pick.
We'll say for argument's sake, it's 3rd and 5th.
Yeah, the argument's sake. So if you're the Bengals, okay, we know how draft capital is so important in this NFL. Very important. We've seen what the Eagles have just mastered when it comes to draft choices and how they use them. They just made another trade yesterday to get Michi from the Texans and gave up a player and a 5th-round pick. I think that if the Bengals are now willing to move on him, which it sounds like they are, if you remember too, a few weeks ago, their 1st-round pick, Stewart, sat out because of the Bengals were screwing around with him with a clause in a contract that no other rookies have had in a contract. And so they're difficult to deal with. We know that. If you're the Panthers, like I said, if you're not giving up anybody that's last name isn't Horn or Derek Brown or Morwig, I don't know who else I wouldn't give up. Like to get the best defensive end in football, or at least one of the top 3.
Why would they want that guy?
Well, because if they're willing,
why would the Bengals want that guy?
A few reasons. Number one, if they
a backup,
if they're
backup or a average,
no, not a backup. Alshon Robinson is one of the best run stoppers in football.
An average player on a terrible team. Why would I want that guy?
Well,
I would rather have a player that same on a good team.
Well, if they go,
that's why the Eagles have the.
But if this guy's not going to play, if he's holding out, and they don't think that he's worth the money he wants, you get rid of it. You figure out a way to fix it. So if you can fix it by getting some draft capital and then a player that upgrades you at another position. So if we upgraded them at defensive tackle, or if we upgraded, we're not going to upgrade him at defensive end because he's the best. So even if we gave him a DJ Wanham, who's a solid defensive end, that ain't an upgrade to what Hendrickson is, but they got a player that they can start and 2 draft choices. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. I got to believe he gets traded. Or Cincinnati is going to come to their senses and just say, pay him. But if I'm the Panthers, then this is what my original question was, is that if I'm Dan Morgan, and obviously he has been, because we're one of the teams that have been in contact with the Bengals, if you believe the reports, and there's been many of them. If I'm the Panthers, I'm going after this guy. Now, I'm not mortgaging the future, because like I said, we're not a player away. I mean, could he be the difference, though, to us making the playoffs? Possibly.
And what I'm saying to you, I guess, or what I'm trying to communicate with you, is that we may want him as bad as anybody because we need him, right? We don't have anything of value that we're willing to give away that's going to attract him to the Bengals, right? The Bengals aren't going to want our backup players, or our average.
But that's
players.
what I'm saying. Wouldn't be a backup if
our average. I keep saying backup. Our average,
but their defense is bad. Ours was awful, right? So we know that.
We're the worst in the football.
Correct. But we just brought in.
They were twice as good as us.
But we just brought in, I think right now, we have the number 1 most expensive offensive line of football, which was last year's free agency. This year, I believe our defensive line now is top 3 in expense. We brought in 4 guys on the, and
free agency,
and obviously we drafted a bunch. So my point is, we actually have depth on the defensive line now. if we were to give up Ashawn Robinson, one of the best defensive
Why did they
stoppers,
bring guys in if we had such good depth?
Well,
why didn't they just move
we
a guy forward?
We didn't have good depth.
And we still
don't. We do now. We brought in so many players that we at least have depth. Now, I'm not saying that these guys we brought in can play. We don't know, but they were good. Turk Wharton, the guy that we got from Kansas City, defensive line.
The guys they brought in are going to be
Brown,
the guys they brought in and paid are going to start.
My point is,
the guys they brought him in for to back up weren't good enough to start.
Well,
that's why they needed to bring them in.
But the names that you're missing my point. The names that I'm mentioning aren't guys that are going to be not starting. Ashawn Robinson is going to start. He started last year. He's one of the best defensive run stoppers in the game. Now, unfortunately for him last year, he had nobody on each side. It was him against the world. Now he's got Derek Brown back. Now he's got Bobby Brown, big nose tackle. Now he's got Turk Wharton, big lineman. So if we were to trade a guy like Robinson, and again, this is all me making up names that I think could be possibilities. He is an upgrade for Cincinnati's defensive line, 100%, 100%. Not better than Rick Henderson, but they know that. They know they're not going to get a player as good as Henderson. That's a foregone conclusion. There's only a few in the league better than him. But if they can upgrade a defensive tackle and get 2 draft choices and know they're not going to sign the guy otherwise, why not do it? It just depends on what we're willing to give them and what the culture willing to give.
And my thought with the Panthers, and the reason why I don't make this trade, right, is because this player is not going to take me to the next level. He's not going to take me to.
I said that earlier. We're not a player away. But
I just drafted several young players that need to cut their teeth.
Yep.
And fail. They need to cut their teeth and fail in order to succeed. They're not failing if they learn and grow. Right?
They're going to play no matter what, though.
Okay. But
I mean, they're going to play.
They need to play. They need to be
100%.
those guys. We need to know if those guys are the ones that we can bank our future on. We don't need another guy coming in and pushing that behind if this guy's
it wouldn't push it behind.
This guy's not going to take us to the next level.
I'll say this.
He's not a guy that's going to take us to the next level.
I'll say this. Is he going to make us go to the Super Bowl this year? No. Does he make us much better our defense immediately the first minute he puts his cleats on? 100%. And I believe that when you have a chance.
This is not a one-year fix with a team that's not ready to even make the playoffs.
Let me finish. I believe that when you're a team or anything, an organization, when I was running radio stations, or if you're running a business, and if you can bring the best sales, if you have a chance to get the best sales guy, if you have a chance to get the best on-air talent, if you get the chance to get the best defensive end in the league, if you get a chance to add one of the best at his craft to your organization, and the cost is not unfair, you do it every time. Now, the other thing you said about Super Bowl, him being on this team isn't going to make this team a Super Bowl team this year. He's also going to be a great mentor for those 2 young guys who are still going to play a lot. Listen, it ain't like we've got 4 other defensive ends that can play. I mean, they're going to play a lot. And they've also shown some flashes so far. They're going to play regardless. But this guy's going to get no less than a 3-year deal. So this year, hopefully we take a step forward this year. And then next year with another free agency group, another draft, another year of experience for all of our young players. Then all of a sudden now, year 2, we could be a team that could compete to win our division, could compete to get in the playoffs, something that really anyone that's realistic does not think that this team is going to do this year. And I'm one of them. I think we're going to be a fringe team, wild card team at best. So I think you do it in a heartbeat if the price is fair. But there's other teams that are going to be going after him as well. There's other teams that are going to go after him that could probably definitely give up a better player than we could, to your point. So I don't even know if it's a possibility, but the fact that we're one of the teams talking to him made me happy. And if we can get him, and we can get him for a price that is fair, to me, a 3rd and a 5th over the next 2 years is fair.
What year is he in his career?
He's 31 years old. So that's why I said it's
so. Let me say this again. All right. I don't remember. I think I sent it to you over the weekend. Bill Walsh.
Mm-hmm.
Where his philosophy, maybe one of the best architects of building a team ever, right? He was so good that George Seifert could win with them.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's how good he was.
Yeah.
Seifert was a terrible coach.
Yeah.
Bill Walsh did such a good job of building an organization that George Seifert could win with his players, right?
Yeah.
That's how good he was, right? So that being said, Bill Walsh's philosophy was what? Cut you a year early than a year late.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Randy Cross, Hall of Fame players, right? He had conversations. Hey, Randy, I love you, bud. You got 5 good years left in you. I'm pretty sure you do, but only 2 of them are going to be here.
Yeah. And listen,
because I'm going to let you go, and I want you, when you're at your best, not when you're declining.
Well,
At some point,
but this guy's been doing this every year.
At some point, 31 years old, Trey Hendrickson is not going to continue to grow and be better. He's going to be about where he's at,
which is one of the best.
Which is one of the best. But eventually, 2 years down the road, when this team is ready to compete, he's going to be on his way out. So I'm paying him for what?
Well,
I'm paying him in his prime years for what? To help me do nothing, because I'm not developing my roster. I'm not developing younger players. I'm not getting better at other positions. He'll be on his way down and out the door by the time it's ready. The Panthers are ready to win. So he's not helping you. He's helping you win now, but we're not trying. I mean, we're trying to win. The goal is to build a Super Bowl team, is it not?
Right. And you have to do it by pieces. And this team has a lot of pieces that need to be filled.
This piece is not going to be here when this team is primed to go out there and win.
If this team, let me, you always say I'm the optimist, right? But let me give you an objective and optimistic view of what I would disagree with you on. Number one, we all agree last year under Canales with the new offensive line, Bryce playing the way he did at the end of the year, this team took a step to being better, right? Not to be a Super Bowl team.
We hope.
Well, we hope, but we saw a step last year. The last half of the year, we saw a step. This year, with the free agency guys they brought in on defense, with the players on defense they brought in through the draft, if it pans out, which we'll see pretty soon, we hope that that's another step to now taking us from a team that had 2 wins to a team that had 5 wins to hopefully a team that now is in the hunt maybe for a wild card position. And in our division, that's certainly doable. The Saints should be awful. Falcons are a lot like us, and then Tampa, we'll see. So if he's here for year one and he helps us get in that playoff hunt and gets these kids experience and what that feels like to have pressure and playing these games that actually mean something the last quarter of the season, then next year with another offseason of additional moves, assuming that we still progress like we hope. I mean, listen, if Bryce Young didn't play well, all this is anyway. But let's assume that we progress. Then next year, this team could be fighting for maybe to knock Tampa off their perch if that's who ends up winning the division this year. Now, all of a sudden, you could be in the playoffs and see what happens. So I think he could be here at a time over the next 3-4 years where this team gets good. Matter of fact, if you're the general manager of a football team, the only way that you should look at it is, especially with the Panthers, is that I'm building this team to get better every year with the goal of in the next 3 or 4 years, we're competing for a Super Bowl. And so by adding players of his caliber to your roster each year, that's how you get there. And he had 17 and a half sacks last year. He had 17 and a half sacks year before that.
You don't get there that way because you don't have enough money to pay them all. The way you get there 3 or 4 years is you draft your ass off and you develop players.
But the Panthers
That's the way you get.
But the Panthers don't have. But listen. Here's what you're missing. The Panthers don't have these high salary guys.
So they have to develop their younger players,
and they've got plenty of them to develop. And they're going to play.
The only way they're going to develop is by playing.
And they're going to play.
Not if this guy comes in.
Yes,
he takes those reps away from them.
Princely and Scorton are going to play. One of those
Scorton
two
isn't one of those guys that I'm looking at. It's going to be a Hall of Fame.
Well, who knows if he's going to be a Hall of Fame? But I know this: the first week he played, he was the number 1 ranked defensive player that was drafted in the second round of any rookie that's out there. And there was a bunch of bigger names than him. He played great, had a sack, he had 3 prep. So I don't know if he'll be that either. None of us do, but I do know this: him and Princely are one of those two, if not both, are going to be in on every down. Even if you have Hendrickson on the other side, they're going to play. There's no way around it. Those guys are playing. And so this team's going to develop young guys, no doubt about it. That point goes to what you were talking about with Adam Thielen. You know, if you traded Adam Thielen, even if Hunter Renfrow is the guy you keep, maybe that opens up the spot for Jimmy Horn to get more reps, right? McMillan, we know, is going to get reps. We know Legette's going to get reps. Maybe this guy, that I talked about earlier, Bryson, maybe that's going to open up reps for him. Who knows? But my point is, if you can go get a guy like this, you go get him. I don't think we're a player away. So, the Eagles would be, or the Chiefs, or one of these teams that are always in it, the Bills, they obviously would be in a much better position to get them, except for the fact that they've got a lot of guys on their roster that are making $30 million a year. Panthers don't have that. Panthers are going to have to pay Bryce if he continues to progress. They're going to pay him in another year or so, and to an extension. But other than that, they don't have anybody on this team. Derek Brown, Jimmy Horn just got a new deal that every time a new cornerback signs, that deal looks better and better. So I think from a financial standpoint, and we've talked about Brant Tillis.
That's always going to be the case.
But my point is, this team doesn't have a lot of guys with big numbers on them, like Cincinnati does, like Philadelphia does, like Kansas City does, like the good teams do, because those good teams built. They weren't good, and they built with young guys. They added free agents, just like we're doing now. So if we progress the way we hope, he will be here when this team is contending.
Why not find our Hendrickson on this?
I think they're going to try to find him between Sporting
Cincinnati.
and
in order for him to do that, if you're using these other teams, how did they build and get their players to be the point where they didn't bring them in, they drafted them?
Well, it's a mixture. I mean, that's what everybody says. The formula is you have to build your young guys, and then you bring in some vets
when you're ready to win.
I think right now
the Eagles brought in Saquon when they were built up front with their 100%. Offensive line, with their quarterback, with their receivers. They brought in Saquon to be the difference maker. Trey Hendrickson, paying him all that money, he's not going to be a J.J. Watt. He's not going to be a
dude,
T.J.
he had
Watt.
17 and a half sacks last year. He had 17 and a half sacks the year before that.
He's not going to be.
I don't see how you think that 17 and a half sacks is probably more than the whole.
He played on the Bengals defense. How did it
awful
help them?
defense.
How did it help
Almost
them?
as bad as the.
How did it help them?
Doesn't
With
matter.
all those sacks, how did it help him?
He was on a crap team. I mean, that's like saying. I mean,
buddy,
you could say that about every player.
We're talking about the Panthers.
You could say that about every player in the league.
How did he help
that
the
is on
Bengals?
a bad team? You could say that.
You're right,
and it's ridiculous because you know how many good teams will take those guys in a heartbeat. Every one of them. So if you have a chance to get one of those dudes that are stuck on a crap team, you many teams will take Derek Brown. You many teams will take J.C. Horn. They're on crappy teams. How many games did we win with those two? But you don't give up your good players like that. You keep them. That's how you build. So if you can add a guy like this and then continue to grow Scorton and Umanelan and the other young guys. You can
make the argument all you want. I don't like bringing free agents that are going to cost $33 million that aren't going to help you be a Super Bowl team.
Well, I think you have to build
3 years.
I think you have to build.
You don't build them. You don't buy them for 3 years. If you're going to buy them, you sign them to a long-term contract.
Well, it would be. I said a 3-year contract. I'm guessing
because he's going to be how old?
It could be a 5-year. He'll be 31.
He'll be 34.
No,
when he's done.
If it's a 3-year deal, yeah, maybe it's a 5-year deal. Maybe how they. And by the way,
then he'll be 36.
The other thing that you're forgetting.
How many 36-year-old defensive ends are having 17 sacks?
I wouldn't know the number. I don't even know how many defensive ends are 36. I don't know. I know what's his name, Chris Jones on the Chiefs.
He's a defensive tackle.
He's got to be 34,
he's 35, 36. He's also 6'8".
Dude, you can break down weight and size and all that. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean,
this dude's a big dude. I mean, this guy's a player. 17 and a half sacks 2 years in a row. It ain't a fluke. He's a big player. So if you get a guy like that on your team, as you're building to become a better team.
31 million.
Well, I don't worry. See, that's the other thing. I don't worry about the money.
I know, because it's not yours.
Well, and because Brant Tillis are the guy that's ahead of that.
You know who is worried about the money? The general manager that has to pay it.
Guess what?
Because there's a thing called a salary cap.
Yep, and our guy is one of the best in the league when it comes to dealing.
And that's why they're probably not going to get him.
Or that's why they will get him, because they'll figure out a way to do a team-friendly deal that gets him the money he wants and save money here and there.
If you tell me that this guy is going to make average salary or whatever it might be, as long as he's not blowing the top off, which he wants.
Well, what they're going to do?
Why would he want to come here?
Guess what they would do. Excuse me. This seems to be the way that these contracts have been going. They'll probably give him big guarantee up front, which is the way a lot of these guys are doing it now, with maybe a lower base salary and a more team friendly salary that is either guaranteed and then maybe some on the back end. We see how that happens.
I mean, now we're having a different conversation.
But don't you
That's not the conversation that we started with.
Well, it is, because
the conversation that we started with.
We weren't talking about contract. We're talking about the play. I wasn't talking about any of that. I was talking about the player. If you can get him for a fair deal, do you get him? Money wise, I don't worry about. Brant Tillis has proven so far on this team. Remember when he took over the Panthers' worst salary cap issues in the league? Now we're in one of the best spaces in the league, because this guy has mastered how to do this. Because
he's not going out and paying $33 million for a 31-year-old guy.
Or when he does pay the free agents, when he does bring in a offensive line that that
are young players, 24, 25, 26 years old.
The two guys that he brought in, 26, 27. When he did bring in these guys that gave us the number one most expensive offensive line, he figured out how to spread that money around to where we could still go this year, spend a bunch of money on the defensive line. Hopefully it works again. But he's mastered the craft of how to make that money work. And I'll give you another example. We have Tyler Moton, right tackle.
Taylor
Moton, excuse me. He's older. He's been in the league. He's been the most consistent offensive lineman we've had in a long time.
Yep.
Maybe slipped a little towards last year.
He's still a Pro Bowler.
And Yeah, but he slipped a little last year. Everyone would say he's owed. He's owed, I think, right now about what, 30 million, some crazy number. They didn't restructure his deal at all. They said, we're not going to restructure. We're going to keep it. If he plays well this year, then, but there's 30 million right there that if they think they've got a right tackle on this team that can play and take his spot, there's 30 million right there that now you free up. So I trust Tillis to figure out the money part. That's why I don't worry about it. The money stuff is like Chinese arithmetic.
But now, why does that become attractive to this guy to come to the Panthers to make less money than he's already?
No, he wouldn't make less money. It would just be the way the contract structured is more
instead of
friendly.
playing. I'm not sure what Hendrickson's contract is this year, right? But why is he going to come to the Panthers, who are going to be worse than the Bengals, right?
I don't know about that. Bengals offense is going to be great, but their defense is bad, and their division is a lot tougher than the Panthers. I mean, they got to go through the Steelers. They got to go through the Ravens.
We have been the worst defense historically in the NFL. We are still going to be a bad defense. We're still not going to be all of a sudden great. These players are
I didn't say great at all. I think they're going to be improved.
These players are still young. They still need to grow. Our linebackers are terrible. I like our secondary. Our secondary is, if I'm giving a scale of 1 to 10, I would say our secondary is 7.5. I would say our linebackers are 4, below average. 5 would be the average of the NFL, right? We're below average at linebacker. 5, 6 would be, starters. We're 4s. We don't have starters at linebacker that go start for anyone else. We don't. There's not one linebacker that starts for anyone else in the league. So we are still the bottom of the barrel. Defensive line, we have a lot of potential.
Could be good,
right? And we have a couple of players that we just brought in that were probably 7s. They're not Pro Bowl players. They're not superstars. They're solid players, right? That's who we built our defensive line with. Right? Derek Brown is probably an 8, right? He's the best player.
And if you can add a 10 to it, to a defensive line that you just put a lot of money into,
this guy would be probably an 8 or 9 too.
17.5 sacks led the league. That's a lot.
17.5 sacks is not leading the league in sacks.
I think last year he did lead the league in sacks at 17.5.
I don't think so. I don't think that's what I don't think.
I'll look it up.
TJ Watt, I think, had 19.
No, TJ Watt didn't even play a lot of games.
I know, and he still had 19.
Let me see what he had last year. Keep talking.
Yeah. So my point to that is that sacks are just a thing. It doesn't make you a great player.
But every good defense in the NFL throughout history has guys that get to the quarterback, and and every coach knows, and every analyst knows that the way that your defensive line makes everything else much better.
The guy for the Raiders had more sacks than him.
Max Crosby?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, Trey Hendrickson last year led the league in sacks with 17.5. Second was Myles Garrett with 14. Nick Benito from Denver, 13.5. Kyle Van Noy, 12.5 with the Ravens. Daniel Hunter, 12 with the Texans. Micah Parsons, 12. Watt wasn't even in the top 8. So 17.5 did lead it. And he had 17.5 the year before that. So he is top 3 at what he does in the league. And when you add him to a rebuilt defensive line, that makes your linebackers, who I totally agree with you, are below average, makes them better because now they don't have bodies on them right away. They can fly around and make plays. It makes your secondary better because now they're not having to cover these dudes as long because the quarterback's having to scramble and run for his life. And our secondary, I think the starting secondary is going to be solid. Depth there scares me. We're counting on a undrafted rookie from Louisville who's shown some flashes. Bartholomew, who they gave a start the other day, did not look good at all. So I think they're going to pick up some players there. I think you'll see Dan add a linebacker and DB through cuts and stuff like that, which the cuts, what do we say, is August 26th. So next Tuesday, a week from this Tuesday will be when the cuts have to be made. But I just think that if you're the Panthers and you can have a guy like this and you don't have to overpay for the guy from a draft capital standpoint, player standpoint, if you can agree on a contract, because here's the other thing, they're not going to make the trade unless they have a deal in place with this guy for an extension. So if all that works out to where Brent Tillis thinks that he can make the money work and Dan Morgan thinks that what we're giving up is not mortgaging our future by any stretch of the imagination, you got to do it. And again, we'll see. If I had to put a percentage on it right now that the Panthers make the trade for him, I would probably say 10%, maybe less. I think there's other teams out there that are closer to winning that probably would give up more that would get him.
And that's what I'm saying.
I'm just saying if you are the Panthers, you got to give it a shot.
We don't have anything except for money to throw at him. right? That's the only thing that we have to throw at him.
Well, not him, the Bengals. Like what?
Well, he has
that
to
would
want to
make them-
come here.
Well, of course. I mean, but
We don't have the.
That's why I said an extension. He would have to sign. If we give him the money he wants to play. Dude. He wants to play football. I think
if he wanted to play football, he'd play with the Bengals.
If I'm saying if he's getting paid the way he wants to get paid,
and then next year he'd go out there and sign his big deal. He'd be a free agent. He'd go anywhere you want.
You could say that though about, like I said, we can name all the guys holding out right now, like Micah Parsons, who was top 10 in sacks.
You know why they're holding out? You know why
they want to get paid?
No, but of course they want to get paid. You know why they're holding out? Because it's preseason and they don't want to play.
Okay, that could be part of it. No doubt that could be part of it. But I'll tell you this: they also want to get paid because the other guys at their position that are the same age.
That's always going to be the same.
I agree, but I agree with them sitting out in this case. And I'm not a guy that likes sitting out, but I don't disagree with him sitting out. I don't disagree with Michael Parsons sitting out. I don't disagree with Scary Terry with Washington sitting out. I do think that you are probably right. Sitting out some of the preseason, 100% has something to do with it. I don't think that he's close enough to a contract with Cincinnati. I don't think Parsons is close enough. Well, I mean, he's kind of said it. They didn't even come to him talking about it for like,
but that doesn't mean
like a month ago.
That doesn't mean behind closed doors are not talking.
They weren't even talking to him.
And that doesn't mean that
Jerry Jones is not even talking to Michael Parsons.
The agent hasn't floated these things out here that, you know, that we haven't had any conversations and you know, we're looking to get him out there and get paid. This is what my client wants. Agents are paid to do those things.
100%.
So
I just say that if you have a chance to get a guy like him and you don't have to overpay from a draft capital standpoint, a player standpoint, the money is what it is. The money these day and age, we know what certain positions are going to get paid, right? We know that the best defensive ends are getting $30 to $34 million. We know that these receivers, you know, gosh, when Malik Neighbors gets to this point, he's going to break the bank. We see what Justin Jefferson did. Even T. Higgins just broke the bank.
They're going to set the new record. They're going to set the new mark.
Right.
They're going to continue to move the ball.
Right. So that's why I don't worry about that, because they're going to get their money. It's just a matter of can the team afford it and want to give it. The Bengals right now have paid 3 guys on offense a ton of money, so they don't have enough money to really maneuver around. They have not done a good job at developing young guys on defense to where they're in a position.
Why can't they give him the same contract that the Panthers would give him?
That's up
front end load it, back end.
Well, because they could, but they're not. That's the problem. I mean, what he's asking for,
they haven't yet.
Well, because the Panthers don't have all this money tied into 3 guys like they do. I mean, that's the thing. That's what you remember when Seattle, you talked about how they built their team and how Kansas City has built their team and the Eagles have built their team. They do. I mean, you're right. You have to have both. You have to have a core of young guys that you develop that are on rookie contracts, quarterbacks in particular. That's why the Falcons and the Panthers have hope, you know, moving forward. They got these young guys under.
And that's why the Niners had to let go some of their Debo Sam
to
sign Purdy.
Right.
Right. So anytime you have a quarterback that's going to sign his second contract, which is going to be the big deal, he better be the guy that makes everybody better.
And that's why the Panthers are in a good spot. If it's a big if again, I'm not saying that this will happen, but if Bryce takes the next step, they're in a good position because they do have young guys around him, and McMillan, who's on a rookie contract for the next 4 years. Leggett, another 2 or 3 years. You know, assuming both those guys can play again, that remains to be seen. On defense, they do have some good young guys that appear or seem that they could be players and contribute to this team in a big way. So if you get out a guy like this, in my opinion, you add him. We'll see. Listen, we've got what?
The Panthers aren't as good in cap space as you think.
Well, next year it gets a lot better because they'll lose the $30 million or whatever it is from Moton.
Maybe.
Well, or they'll restructure a deal that's more team friendly is my point. So like I said, I trust Tillis to figure that out. We'll see. The Bengals have not been a team.
Then they're going to have to make a decision on what to do with Derek Brown.
Or restructure his deal,
yeah.
Which is what they don't want to kick the can down the road too far. So Derek Brown will be in his second, third. Next year will be his 3rd year of the deal. Normally that is when they would restructure if they suit. Now look, Derek Brown's got to have a good year this year. Hopefully he's got to stay healthy. Hopefully he does, and we'll see. But that's up to Tillis to figure out. If you're the general manager, your job is to say, okay, if I can get this good player and the price is fair, Tillis, can you make the money work to where it doesn't hamper us down the road and we can still have flexibility moving forward? And if the answer is yes, you go for it. We'll see what the Panthers do. Today is Monday, so Panthers play Thursday, their last preseason game against the Steelers. They're not playing any starters, so if you're going to that game, Don't expect to see any stars on either side. You're going to see a lot of the backups that are fighting.
Has that already come out, as Canales already said, that the starters aren't going to play?
Yep. And I think the Steelers did the same, if I'm not mistaken. So you're not going to see any stars.
What a travesty for the players. Because tickets still cost the same.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
The NFL preseason, these games have become a joke, right? And the reason why they've become a joke is because of what Canales just said, right? Canales just openly told on the entire NFL, we are getting better work in practice than we do in the games. So there's no reason for us to play these games.
But
so if I'm a fan, the NFL preseason is a waste of time. I don't even get to see players that I'm going to develop. 90% of those guys that are playing are going to be gone. They'll be playing in Europe or some Canadian football league or something like that. They're not going to be in the NFL. But if they do, they're going to be hidden in on some roster.
Here's what I say about that, and it's not too far from what I said about not caring about the money that the Panthers spend as long as they got. Here's the thing: the preseason product is garbage, no doubt. You're right.
It's worse than the summer league for the NBA.
It's bad, and I don't even know what the answer would be. I don't know if you could get rid of preseason. Obviously, there's money coming in to these teams that they don't want to give up. That's why they still probably have these preseason games. I know there's talk about adding more regular season games and getting rid of more preseason.
Well, but eventually, what's going to happen, right? If the NFL wants to keep generating money in the preseason, they're going to have to do away with these scrimmages.
Yeah, they have to make them regular season games.
Well, no, they'll just have to do away with the scrimmages. Instead of me going to Tennessee for 3 days.
Yeah, but they do that though. When they do that to the team they're going to be playing anyway. So it's just a practice against them.
I understand that, but you're losing the value and the profitability as an owner when my team is going to the Texans, and then you're not playing in the game because fans don't want to go. Right. So if the coaches feel like the players are getting better in practice and not playing them in the game and fans stop coming, I'm going to do away with those practices. And I'm just going to play the game because now my players are going to have to play.
But here's my point about the whole thing that I was trying to finish is that the people that go to these preseason games, okay, the people that buy these tickets that are the same price as they are for regular season games. The people that buy these, right? So the 25,000, 30,000 people that'll be there against the Steelers, probably more than that because it is the Steelers. Oh, there'll be 20, 30,000.
Oh, no way.
The Steelers are here.
And there'll be maybe that many Steeler fans. Yeah. And this is an opportunity for them to see.
But let's just say average attendance at a preseason game is probably 25, 30,000.
You think it's that
Well,
high?
Most of those stadiums are 70,000 seats. So let's say they're half full.
Not the NFL.
Yeah, most of them are big. I mean, the Texans game looked pretty full.
I would say the average seat size is about 50,000.
So even if you say 50, even if you say half the people come, 25,000.
You think those stadiums are half full?
I think they've been about half full. But my point, regardless of how many people are there, is the people that are going, they know what they're getting. They're not going there expecting to see the starters play. They know. So they're going because of a few reasons. Number one, they're going because they love NFL. They love their team. Maybe this is a game that they know they can get tickets to because they can't. Maybe they get for cheaper.
One of their friends have given them gifted tickets to
Correct.
Them, and they don't have to pay for them.
Exactly. So the people that go to these games are going because they want to be there. They know what they're getting when they walk in there. They know they're not seeing Aaron Rodgers this Thursday night. They know they're not seeing Bryce Young. They know what they're getting. And this might be the only games that they're allowed to go to maybe their budget can't afford it. It may be like you said, maybe a buddy gives them tickets because he doesn't give a crap about going.
So pay the $100 to park.
No question. But they know
$20 beers.
But they know that that's what they're doing, and to them it's worth it. So to me, I don't have a problem with any of it. If the people that are going know what they're getting into, and there's a reason they're going. It might be my son's first game ever going to. It might be me and whatever it is. They know what they're getting into. They're not getting misled by the NFL. The issue that I just have is what you alluded to is just if the players aren't going to play in preseason, and if they get better playing in practice or practicing against the other team,
which they don't.
Well, they have to get better in practice. You would.
Incrementally.
But at the end of the day, what the NFL is going to have to figure out from a revenue standpoint, from a product standpoint, is okay. They've already knocked one preseason game off when they added a regular season, right?
Yep.
So are they going to?
There's 17 games now. They've taken. And ultimately, that's what the league is pushing for.
To go
is another 18-game season and take a preseason game away.
So what I could see them doing,
that's what's ultimately going to happen.
At some point, I could see them taking and having one preseason game where the teams do play their starters for maybe a quarter, something like that, right? Just one game, and then you add you go to 18 game schedule. Now, there's a lot that goes into that, because if you add another regular season game, the players are going to have to get paid more money, rightfully so. So that's going to have to be negotiated with the Players Association in the NFL. So that is not an easy solution, but I do think that's coming. I think you're right. There's no way that these preseason games are going to continue to go the way they go when no one's playing these games anyway. And the NFL could make so much more money if it was a regular season game. The players will make more money by giving up and saying, okay, we'll do another game. So that's coming. We'll see what happens. Wanted to end with two quick things. College football, they're saying now that the Big Ten, I believe, is pushing for like a 2014 college football playoff. And this is something that is always argued about. What number? I saw a poll the other day, and it was like, what is the right number for playoffs? 8, 12, 16, 24. I think 12 teams is the sweet spot to me, because I think that gives enough room to let some of these not big power conferences get some guys in. I think it also allows room for teams that missed out, like last year.
The problem with 12, though, DJ, is that you have to figure out, how that bracket is going to shape.
Yep.
Top 4 seeds get buys. Guess what happened this last season with top 4 seeds? They got buys.
They lost. They got
beat.
Yeah.
So you think coaches want to play? Yeah, of course they do. After looking at that trend,
or if you're a coach, you go, you know what? It's my job to make sure we're ready for that game.
Of course.
I mean,
no doubt about it. But you're talking about 18, 19-year-old kids.
But take that out of it.
Now, what's going to happen, in my opinion, hold on, let's keep that 12-game scenario. That's where we're at. Let's finish talking about that, and then we can go anywhere else. That 12-game scenario, right? If you want to continue to do that, if I'm a coach of one of these top teams, Oregon, you film Texas, whoever it is, whoever the top 4 seeds are going to be, there needs to be a rebracketing and reseeding once those teams are done, right?
Yeah.
So Ohio State shouldn't be playing Oregon in the first game of the season.
I totally agree with that.
Right?
Yeah.
There should have been some sort of shuffling.
Yep.
With the seeding, so that one plays the worst team available.
I agree with that.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the way that if you're going to keep 12, you have to do it, or else these coaches are going to say, no, it should only be 8 or 16, right? The 8 or 16 is a sweet spot because now everybody plays.
Yeah.
Right. 16 goes to 8, 8 goes to 4, 4 goes to 2.
Well, I think 12 and reseeding to me would be great. 16, I wouldn't mind. Here's the thing about going to 12. And no one's ever going to be happy, right? It's like NCAA tournament in basketball. There's always a 65th and 6th and 7th team that get left out. They feel they should have been in. Last year, there were some really good teams that were left out that could have been in.
South Carolina.
We've
Tennessee made it.
Just in the SEC alone.
That's right. That's right.
So there's teams that were left out that we knew were better than Boise State.
That's right.
We knew that were better than
Arizona State.
Yeah, well, Arizona State ended up living up to the hype.
They played a close game. They lost the game, but
they lived up to. So regardless, some of these teams who are left out, it's definitely going to make the competition better by letting those teams in. Reseeding, I totally agree with you. There's no way in hell that if Ohio State's the number 1 seed, they should end up playing Alabama or Georgia because they didn't get a bye and whatever. Should totally reseed it.
Yep.
And if they went to 16, then it would fit better. But I think 12 to me is the way to do it. You definitely would have to reseed. But here's the reality. They're pushing for it now.
Here's the reality.
And there's money. More money, the more teams, more money, right? So
here's the reality of it. How much SEC football do you want to see?
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
That is true.
How much SEC? Even though the Big Ten won the national championship last year, right? How much SEC football?
And the year before that, right? Michigan won the year before that, didn't he? Even though they cheated.
The last 2 years.
Even though they cheated and just got.
Well, Harbaugh. He beat the Axe, didn't he?
He beat the Axe, and now that new head coach is paying for it. But
that's the real reason why Harbaugh left.
100%. Even the sanctions, though, are so light compared to what they would have been back in the day. And I don't mind the NCAA's reasoning. Why should the kids who are on this team now that came to play college years suffer for what happened?
The NCAA has zero power anymore. They have lost control of this machine.
Yeah.
Conferences have all the control now.
Yeah.
The Pac-10, the Big Ten, the SEC, the Big 12. They have all the control now.
Yep.
Right. And if Michigan said, we're not going to do that, what is the NCAA going to say? And
if the Big Ten, who's pushing for the 24 team, I believe, if they've got the SEC to come along with them, it's over.
Yeah.
NCAA ain't got nothing to say about that. If these two want to do it themselves. So that's going to be something else that we'll follow during this football season because it's going to be talked about every weekend. Games get started. a week from this past Saturday, so the 23rd. Then the following week after that, Frank and I talked a little bit about this last week, and we'll talk a lot more about it as we get closer.
So interested when it comes to college football this year. I guess the one thing that I'm most interested in is watching to see the development of these teams that have went out there and got these big name players and have paid them all this money.
Yeah.
How is that going to impact that team? Because in basketball, it's only 5 players, but we saw immediate impact on the top schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
All those schools had transfers in and left. Duke was maybe the only school that didn't have, maybe had 1 or 2, right?
Yep.
All the other schools had transfers in and out everywhere, and were able to, make a deep run, if not win the national championship. I'm wondering, how that's going to impact Alabama, Georgia, LSU,
Yep.
Ohio State, Texas. All the schools that really are the powerhouses. Florida State had a bunch of them last year.
Mm-hmm.
And are those guys a year together better now that and Miami's another good one too. So
Miami's
I'm
defense,
most interested to see how those players impact these teams.
If I asked you for 3 teams, and I'll start, so I'm just throwing this question, I'll give you a minute to think. If I asked you to give me the 3 teams that you're most interested in seeing in this college football season when it starts,
mm-hmm.
my 3 would be Notre Dame, number 1. I'm a big Notre Dame fan. Mm-hmm. Who's going to win the quarterback battle? Because I think we're loaded on both sides of the ball. We have a tough schedule, but we have to have a quarterback. And it's either going to be a true freshman or a sophomore. Both 4-star guys. We'll see. So I'm interested to see what my Irish have at the quarterback position. I'm interested to see North Carolina. I really am interested to see what Belichick does with all these new players, all the new coaching, the NFL style. So I'm, Carolina football fans are excited as they've ever been, and we know they really rarely do well in football. So I'm excited to see what Belichick does at Carolina. And then third would be Alabama because down year last year after Saban left.
It's funny, down year 9 wins.
9 wins, and DeBoer obviously has been a great coach wherever he's
Washington
gone.
Took him to the national championship.
100%. So I'm interested to see if he gets that ship where it needs to be because he certainly has players, man. He still has no lack of players. So those are the 3 teams: Notre Dame, Carolina, and Alabama that I'm eager to see. Alabama opens with Florida State. Notre Dame opens at Miami, who's a top 10, I believe, ranked team, and then Carolina's opening with TCU, so who's always solid.
Gosh, if I could have 5 or 6, because there's really about that's about I think what the handful is for me, for teams. And Miami and North Carolina, I'm sorry, just wouldn't be one of them.
Yep.
I can watch Belichick, develop his program, still not going to have enough players to compete, right? Regardless, they just don't have the backing, they don't have the pedigree, they don't have the history. He might make them better, but to what degree? Second in the Pac-12, the ACC. The team that I'm looking most interested in, there's probably the 3 most would be Texas, Ohio State, and South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I want to see if this kid Sellers, because he's a great kid.
Yep.
All right. He is a great kid.
Yep.
I think he has his head on straight. I think he makes players around him
could have left for more money and
could
stayed.
have left for more money.
Yeah.
Everything about this kid screams, Saquon Barkley, winning
Just
type of guy, class act guy, right?
And he's talented as hell.
And he's talented. And Beamer has done a hell of a job building that program. I've been to their camp. I've seen their facilities. I see their regiment. He has done a hell of a job. Maybe the national coach of the year if they do what they're projected to do. But I think they're going to end up being a top 10 team. They have a tremendously brutal schedule. Crazy, tough schedule.
Yeah.
But they're the 3rd most interested team. I do want to see Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
For the same reasons. DeBoer is that program taking a step back, or was it just 1 year and we're going to rebuild?
Yep.
Right. Because that's a program that rebuilds, doesn't reload.
Yeah.
Or they reload, they don't rebuild.
Right.
Excuse me. They reload, they don't rebuild. I'm interested to see Miami. Right. And I'm interested to see Clemson. Right. Clemson, is this kid ever going to live up and be the player that Clemson and Dabo think he's going to be?
Well,
because Clemson is the clear-cut favorite to win the ACC,
mm-hmm.
and can they compete with the Georgias, the Alabamas, are they going to beat South Carolina?
Well, you're going to find out because they open with LSU at Clemson, and Klubnik, you're right. I mean, last year he did throw for 3,600 yards, 36 touchdowns.
He's playing in the ACC, though.
No doubt.
Everybody throws the ball for that much.
Well, but he had a good year coming off a year where it was definitely everyone questioned him. He had a solid year, still made some big mistakes in big time.
Is so bad.
It's bad. I mean, you got, Miami, like you mentioned, offensively should be fine. Defensively, they were really bad.
Miami, Florida State are the only other two teams in this conference, in that entire conference, athletically, that can compete with Clemson.
Louisville is building pretty good.
Louisville has every now and then they're going to have a player.
I'm going to tell you a team that to not overlook, and I almost laugh when I say it, is Duke. I mean, that dude did a great job last year, and they had a great year.
They had a good
quarterback.
They
bring in the quarterback from Tulane, who was great, gave him a 2-year NIL contract. They brought in some other dudes. I'm not saying that they can compete.
They're good in the ACC.
That's what I'm saying. But I think
they're not nearly as talented to even be in the top 10 when, we can talk about Georgia. Clemson,
oh, yeah.
Alabama,
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying in the ACC, Duke's another team that should be at least
and the other team that nobody's even talking about, we didn't even talk about it, is Oregon. Where are they going to be now? They're still have more NIL money spent with that program than any other school out there. Right? They have the most amount because
they have a soft schedule. Usually.
They have a soft schedule. I mean
now that they're in the
Big Ten, it's going to be a little bit. Yeah,
it's not as what the SEC guys are going through. But Oregon's one of those teams that I just can't buy into.
Yeah,
I just feel like they always. What do you always say? Look like Tarzan and play like Jane. I always think they look like they've got freak athletes everywhere. They got 87 different uniform combinations, 100,000 people every game.
And then they played the SEC.
Yeah, and that coach,
or Ohio State.
That coach. There's times I really think I like him, and there's times I think he needs to shut up and just coach. And he opens his mouth too much. So I don't know. Oregon,
the other team, from just a one-off standpoint, that I want to see. If this coach is legit, because I think this is a really good coach. Is the Arizona State coach.
I agree.
I love him.
And you know what? He's calling out their fan base saying, we shouldn't have any games not sold out. He's calling out. I saw something the other day.
He's creating a buzz there in the Valley.
He's saying, how the heck do we not have indoor facilities? Yep. I love
120 there. And we're practicing with the cactus.
Right. And he knows that after what he did last year, and he's like 32. I think he's a young coach. He knows that after this season,
he has a great quarterback.
Great quarterback.
He probably has maybe one of the best, other than Manning. He's probably the next best quarterback in college football.
They loaded up in the portal too. So he knows now though that he's got all the leverage in the world because he knows that he's one more winning season away from coaching wherever he wants. Right, getting a huge contract, if not by Arizona State. He knows he's got a good team. He knows.
I forgot about it. They might be the shock. They might be the team that surprises more people than anybody because I really do like their coach. Now that I'm, remembering back to last year, and I love their quarterback. I love his competitive.
No, he's great.
I don't know if you watched that. You obviously watched with me. We watched together here with Scadaboo and him at 1-2 punch.
Yep.
They had a refuse to lose attitude. They fought tooth and nail to the very end. And just came up a little short.
Yeah, they'll be a team to watch. And you mentioned Texas.
Was that against Texas?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then Texas. I mean, they're loaded, always are loaded. They reload instead of rebuild. They've got great coaching, and Arch Manning is going to probably have the biggest spotlight of anybody.
Sarkisian has to get over the hump of
big games. Yep, he does. And until he does that, he's still going to take heat.
He'll still be 7-win Sark.
But if Arch Manning is the guy that everybody says he is, then that should help him get over the hump, right? I mean, if Arch Manning is the next freaking great quarterback, he should do what other great quarterbacks have done, which is get them over the hump. So he's got receivers, he's got running backs, he's got the biggest offensive line. I mean, they've got it all. So if Arch Manning is everything that they say he is, then that should be no excuses. I totally agree. And I'm not a Texas guy. I don't dislike him or like him, but I am that they will be interesting to watch because of Arch Manning. And
who's going to throw the ball to Smith at Ohio State?
That's the other question. Who's going to start? They haven't named their starter. Neither is Notre Dame. Yeah. So there's a lot of those questions that'll be coming up that we'll be finding out over the next week or so.
I'm excited about college football.
I am too, man. It's almost back. We'll be back Friday. We'll review the Panthers-Steeler game, and really there won't be a lot to review probably, except a lot of the guys are fighting for jobs. But
we're going to talk about the guys that would be riding playing center guard and tackle.
Yes,
center of the bench, guarding the water bucket, tackling anybody comes
We'll talk about that. We'll update anything that happens from a trade standpoint or some of these guys that are holding out getting signed. And then we will talk some college football again to get us ready because next week, man, it's on. We've got college football and then, man, NFL right around the corner.
Couple big shout out to Big D over here for helping us out
Yep.
once again. And also Nico.
Yep.
Neogenics, one of our sponsors, his birthday today. So
yep.
Happy birthday, Nico.
Happy birthday, brother. He's in what, Yellowstone Park?
Yeah, he's celebrating big time with the buffalo.
Yeah, he doesn't fish, I don't think. So if I'm in Yellowstone, I'm gonna go fishing, but I think I hope he's not hiking and stuff all day long. That'd be miserable.
Probably petting moose.
Maybe. I don't know, but I hope
he's trying to find a new stem cell for us.
Well, he might.
Through animals.
If anyone's gonna find it, it'll be him. Yeah, happy birthday, Nico. Thanks, Big D. We'll see you guys Friday.